Welcome to the Improve Our podcast. I'm your host, Daniela Tancău, an HR consultant helping entrepreneurs and team leaders build motivated, high-performing teams. Here we talk about leadership, employee motivation, and other topics that enhance your ability to lead, whether you are an entrepreneur with a team, a business owner planning to build one, or a leader in a company. You'll gain practical advice and insights from me and my guests, experts in the field and entrepreneurs who share their leadership experiences. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe to stay updated on every episode. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi everyone. In this episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Lindsay Scherr Burgess, the owner of Green Wallscapes. As the company name suggests, it provides green walls for homes and office spaces. And I saw some of these walls on her website, and they are not just green walls, but art pieces. They are impressive. You can go and check them out on her website. The link is in these show's notes. Her company has been featured in Architectural Digest, Elite Decor, and other prestigious magazines. And I wanted to speak with her because she has had a team for a long time and was willing to share her experiences and challenges with us. As you know, I'm always open to speaking directly with team leaders to find out how they approach different challenges. Because sometimes entrepreneurs become team leaders without prior leadership experience and have to learn on the way, developing their skills as they resolve specific issues with their teams. Lindsay shared with us how she improved the way she hires people, enhanced communication and collaboration between team members, and what it took to make the changes necessary for her business success and growth. Let's listen to her. Welcome to the podcast, Lindsay. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great as well, thank you. So, because you are an entrepreneur and you have a team, we'll discuss about some of your challenges as an entrepreneur with a team.
Sounds great.
And I'm very thankful that you are willing to share from your experiences.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do it.
So let's start with the first thing that you are doing as an entrepreneur with hiring.
Hmm.
Do you remember the first person you hired? And
Of course I
how?
do.
Of course, I was sure of this.
You never forget that person. So the first person that I kind of not technically hired, but asked to help me was a woman who was actually living, an artist who was living in like my little back cottage. And so she was my first employee, not really employee. And then she helped quickly. I realized that it wasn't enough of a fit. I needed someone who could be help me more full time. And so she had a friend who I worked with for about 2 years after that. So it was one person helped me find another person scenario, and that worked out okay.
Mhm, mhm,
There was a
mhm.
lot of drama there, but that's all right. And I think you just when you're starting out, you really don't know a whole lot, or at least I didn't know a whole lot. I think if I were to start a new company at any time, I would have a lot more understanding about what you need to do to hire people. But when I started, it was just like, I need help and I need help as fast as possible and who's available. And, I hope it works out kind of thing, which isn't an approach that you want to take when you're hiring people. But that was how I started. Um,
Mhm.
and how I started most things in my business, which is the incorrect way. So I think, having looked now 8 years in, we have a whole process for hiring. We have a whole process for vetting people. We have a whole process for, doing the initial interview and the second interview. We actually have a scorecard that we use that has very specific information on it that tells people, that make sure that we're not just saying, oh, I really liked this person, but they didn't have X, Y, or Z skill that actually the role really needs to kind of get it out of just, I like this person versus that person, and really, are they going to be able to do the job? And that has been a big evolution and taken a very long time to develop and put together.
But what caused these changes, this involvement in your hiring? Because I presume that you observed some things that were missing or some things that could be improved, and
Yes.
you decided to change something. What
There's
were those situations?
People are the most important part of your business. People will make or break your business. And so, having done this for 8 years and gone through, frankly, a lot of pain with a lot of employees that were either the wrong fit or they weren't the wrong fit for the company, they were the wrong fit for the role. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I realized probably about 3 or 4 years in that if I kept hiring the way that I was hiring, which was just based on like, oh, they're fun and they seem like they can do the job, that I was going to end up in the same situation over and over and over again. There was a period of time, especially early on in my business, when I had 4 or 5 employees, and there was a lot of infighting going on with the team because I wasn't very clear on goals. I wasn't really clear on, roles and responsibilities. And then there was a lot of overlap and there was a lot of jockeying for power, which is something that was kind of,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to figure out in backwards how to hire correctly. And I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky I hired a coach in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, who had a whole checklist on, here are the ways that you hire, and this is what you look for, and this is the order that you look for people, and all that kind of stuff. And following his process has been really amazing. His name's Tim Uchuk. I don't know if he's still doing it anymore, but at the time he was really, really instrumental in helping me determine what future hires would look like, determining what the gaps were in the company and skill sets that I didn't know that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were other times where, I was hiring for one role and then a candidate would come in. And this is the story, for example, of my studio manager, where, candidates were coming in and I was like, this person is way overqualified for this job. But because of the weird job market during 2020, between 2020 and 2022, some people were like massively overemployed. There were people who were massively underemployed at that time. And so he walked in and I said, this is not the right role for you, but I think that you're somebody who I need help, who could help me take this business to the next level. Let's see if we can work together. And I said, I know I need you. I'm warning you, it's going to be messy. We have a lot to clean up here, and then go from there. And I think, the people business is really, really hard. My mother was in human resources for 40 years, and I call her all the time going, Mom, what do I do here? And I'm lucky to have someone who's like, okay, well, I've seen this scenario before. Here are the ways that you can fix it. And I think it's also being open to, okay, I need help here. I don't know how to do this. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
used to running a team. I was very much, before starting this company, I was very much an individual contributor. And so it was like I was a salesperson, I was out doing marketing and business development. I didn't work, other than sort of collaborating a little bit. I didn't work with teams. I didn't have to work on motivation. I didn't have to work on team building. I didn't have to work on any of these things. And so all of this I've had to learn over the last 8 years. And so it's a learnable skill, but you have to be very open. You will be called all sorts of terrible names until you figure out how to do it. And then even after, you might be, and you just have to keep going and keep trying things. And like I said, one employee can make or break, especially if you're small, one employee can make or break the team morale. So you really want to work and focus on, do you think that this person, one, can do the job? That's the most important thing. But two, is going to bring good energy and good vibes to your company. And if they
Mm-hmm.
don't, and they start to show their true colors after a couple of months, you get them out of your company as fast as humanly possible, because they will create all sorts of problems that you just didn't even anticipate. So that's sort of my masterclass in how to do this.
You shared a lot of information,
Mhm.
so I will go back a little bit and ask you what are some common traits or qualities that you are looking to an employee, if there are common traits you are looking for.
So the traits that I'm looking for our specific business, which is we make
Yes.
preserved moss walls, we manufacture custom green walls like the one behind me, and then we put them in boxes and we ship them all over the country, and they get installed all over the US and also a little bit in Canada. And what I have found, because our business is sort of between manufacturing and more sort of like artisanal work,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a special person that wants to come and be in this business. I like to joke that the moss chooses the people that get to come, but that's not really true. What it is that what we're looking for are things like open-mindedness. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking for look a growth mindset, like they're not fixed in how they do things. We are looking for people who are collaborative, who are actually okay with not being the superstar on the team, because it is a collaborative event. I mean, I am currently basically the face of the company, but if I went away, the company would still exist, and the people who do the day-to-day work are really competent, exceptionally good at what they do, and it's a team effort to make these products. And the other thing is they have to be the right fit for the role. So, for example, the Moss, for a period of time, it was a very social group. We had a group that they were just giggling all day long and making the moss and whatever. And my current team is much quieter. They're just like put your head down, get the work done, listen to music, and we're working, first of all, a lot faster, and second of all, it's the work is much better because I
Mm-hmm.
have the right people who are doing this kind of stuff. But it is sometimes like you're like, okay, they're more introverted. Are they happy doing this? Are they, and it's just like each team has its own evolution and its own iteration of what and they still fight with one another every once in a while, but it's much more copacetic because the team is aligned. Like I have all people. I don't have one chatter and two people who are like, no, we've got to work. I've got all people who are just like, we've got to work, we've got to get this
Mm-hmm.
done. And so I think it is like, and that takes time. That's an evolution within the business. And I used to love having, my team be this like kind of giggly, fun group, but that giggles and fun also could, impacted the delivery dates and things like that. So that was, you have to always weigh between all of these different aspects and that kind of thing. So in terms of looking for people, when it's on the production side of things, it's like people who just want to come in and really execute really, really
Mm-hmm.
well, who don't necessarily need to be best friends with everybody in the studio. Whereas, on the customer service side, I need someone who's super personable. And also in sales, like anything sort of front facing, I need somebody who's super personable, but also, can handle details well and can just do a great job and stay really organized.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then work on if something isn't working that well, bringing new ideas on how to make it work better. Because one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that we're constantly working on is Kaizens, which is continuous improvement. So micro improvements that will make the company better all the time. And so as we discover those, and as we implement those, they make a huge difference over long periods of time.
Let me ask you about how did you make the shift between the team
Mhm.
members who are more sociable and they have more fun, and the team that get more better results for your business? Did you select different types of people, or did you change something internally?
It was very painful. To be very honest with you, it took a long time. Um, when I brought my studio manager in, he initially started just doing production because I wanted him to learn from the ground up. And what ended up happening is the team thought that I had like lily padded him over everybody else, but I had always had the intention, and what I should have told them is I always had the intention of putting him in a management role. And so he ended up doing, some, uh, he ended up doing like, it was really pretty painful, honestly. Like the team was really pushing back against him. They were sabotaging him. They were trying all sorts of different ways to get him out because they did not like his style,
Mhm.
which was much more structured, which was much more like, hey guys, we got to get this done on time. Like we can't mess around here. And so I found that he was that it was a like it was about a year and a half, 2 years to do that. And then the other thing that was happening is the next groups that we were bringing in, there would always be like a remnant person who was angry about that transition, and and then they would influence the other people about
Yes.
his leadership style. And so it took like almost 2 years to get that initial group out, to get the new group in that is doing much higher quality work, that is also delivering much better, like just a much better deliverable. And that, works in a different way, I think, than previous teams. And it's not to say that he isn't fun and wonderful. It's to say that, like, it's just a different style. And,
Mhm.
and you have to also think about this. And again, like when I started this, it was just supposed to be like a fun, happy thing that I was doing out of my house. It was never supposed to be a manufacturing company of commercial grade, large scale moss walls. It was never supposed to be that. And then as I evolved and as it evolved and as the market told me what it wanted, I needed to change who I brought in and who I brought around me to be able to execute on this. And so that's really, really hard to do because, the team that starts with you isn't always a team that's going to end with you. And again, it always evolves. And, I recently had to find a new project coordinator. And, and that was a process that took a couple of months because I really needed to clean up some processes
Mhm.
before I brought in somebody else because the last person was really unable to do the job. So I thought, okay, it's not only her, there's got to be other things that we're not doing correctly. And so I spent a couple of months in her role looking at the business and understanding, okay, this could have been an issue. I see why this is a problem. I see why this is a problem. And then cleaning it up so the next person could come in and execute in a really, really effective
Mhm.
way. And I think, the challenge with being a founder is that you will take a lot on initially and then you slowly delegate out. And then sometimes you delegate too much and you have to take that stuff back on so that you can fix it, make it better, and then redelegate it again correctly this time. So that's been my experience this last
Mhm.
round.
What you told makes sense because you bring in a person with a different style, and the old team didn't accept that leader because
Mhm.
he brought new things and changed things, and it's easier for new employees to adapt to the status quo of a company than the older employees, let's say like
Of
this,
course.
that
Mhm.
were used with something else.
Right. Or they wanted to work more with me, and I was like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
you're working with him now. And
Mm-hmm.
because, the production, I need to be focused on other aspects of the company. And so it is one of those things where I really um, wanted to um, I really wanted to be intentional about the team building as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
reactive about team building. And that is something that happens over time in any business. Because I think that like what ends up happening in when you're starting is you're just like, okay, I need help. I don't know even know what kind of help I need. I just need physical bodies to
Mm-hmm.
do this stuff. You seem like you could do it. Great. Come help me glue moss. I mean, it was that level of selection process. Um, and then, once I really started working with a coach to help me kind of understand, okay, this is not how you do things in a professional environment. Your happy-go-lucky, cute thing that you were doing when it was just you in your house or you with one other person in a small studio is very different than what you're going to need when you have, a 2,500 square foot studio and
Mm-hmm.
massive projects going out all the time. You need somebody who's got a different skill set. And there have been people in my team who have actually stepped up and surprised me. I had a woman who was in production whose father was a very successful businessman. And she's like, no, 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 let me help you with all this stuff. So she came and, sort of lily padded a team and, creating those kinds of pathways for people is also really, really wonderful and exciting too. Like what do I create for you in terms of a role that will work really well for you? That's really exciting also. But she came in and she was like this, and she developed a lot of great processes because she was given frameworks and then she adapted them to our company and did a lot of great work. And that was a total surprise. Like I had no idea. I had another woman who like moved into social media because she was actually really passionate about that. And
In
so
your
there were
company? In your
in my
company?
company, yeah. So they
Mm-hmm.
were started in production, but like then they were doing like partial production and partial operations or partial production and partial social media. And it was like they started to then evolve their own roles. Now it's a little bit more structured than it was before, because I found that, sometimes if you overdo the hybrid thing, then they don't know where the priorities lie,
Mm-hmm.
or they really like doing one thing that isn't what you really need them to do. And it's staying focused on like what is the requirement of the business and does the team that we have, are they able to execute on the way that we need them to execute? And if not, who are the people, what capabilities do we need to bring in
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that, whether it's a short-term person or a long-term
How
application?
much how much autonomy do your team members have in their roles? Because you said that they involve their roles, so they can come with proposals to you, and then you change their responsibilities and tasks, and maybe even their jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit, because we're small, we have the ability to do whatever we want and we have the
Mm-hmm.
ability to. So if someone really has an interest in something, then I will say, okay, show me what you can do. You want to take a certain amount of training on this. A woman in my
Mm-hmm.
studio right now, she took a video course on like how to make videos because she's in the studio. She can be making videos while she's making the moss walls because she's literally sitting there doing that. And it's been interesting to like have her learn those things. And then, sometimes she's making videos, sometimes I'm making videos, sometimes our project coordinator's making videos and that kind of thing. So, we experiment and see, what people are interested in versus what their capabilities are, and if it makes sense to use them professionally for X, Y, or Z things. Some things work, some things don't. You have to be, excuse me, especially as if someone really wants to, take on a different responsibility, for example, you have to give them a chance, but you also have to be very clear in your communication that, like, hey, I didn't hire you for X, Y, or Z thing, so we're going to try this. But if
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work, I reserve the right to say, I don't think this is really working. Let's try a different path. And so, because that is part of it also, it's like you say, well, you're not really, so if you do really want to take this on, like these are the things you're going to do, you're going to have to do to like get it to the level that we want it so that this is what we're putting out in the world. And sometimes they rise and they want to do that, and other times they don't. And so that's kind of, everyone's got a different approach. And
Mm-hmm.
so as the team has gotten more, it's evolved and gotten, it's a little bit more solidified. But if someone does come to me and say, hey, I'm super interested in X, Y, or Z thing, I will try and help them pursue that passion so that they can, have that creative expression too. Because if it helps retain them, because
Yes.
they're able to like do something different and that thing creates value for the company, I'm super open to that kind of thing. But again, it's like that's the benefit that I have in a small organization with 8 people or 9 people, or whatever we are now, versus working in a huge company. There, it's much more rigid when you go into like large corporate environments where you are niched
Yes.
down very, very far. I have the luxury of flexibility that other people don't have. On the flip side, I also have gotten myself in trouble in previous iterations of hiring by saying to my team, "Go for it, try stuff." And they thought that that meant that that was going to be their new job. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't. I was thinking of it more as a trial basis, and they were thinking of it like, "Oh no, I'm going to start being an innovator," or "Oh no, I'm going to start being social media only," or "Oh no, I'm going to only be this." And that wasn't that at all.
Mhm. So these were some challenges that you faced. Did you
Absolutely.
change something in your communication, in the communication between them? So in your communication to be more clear with your expectations and what they do you expect them to do, and also what communication rules or I don't know strategies, practices did you introduce so they collaborate well together because you say that they work as a team and they need to collaborate and not go for personal interest or not go no go in power games between
Yeah.
them.
So usually my manager, my studio manager is dealing with that, but occasionally like I'll get pulled into a project because my team is actually doing jockeying or creating problems because they're mad about something and they have no way of communicating to the manager what they're mad about. We had a project that we were working on that was very large. It was a new process that we had never done. It's usually like when we have new projects that the team starts to like mess around with each other a little bit, is what I've observed after doing, 1,000 of these projects, is that, when we have to invent a new process or we're doing something that is a little bit too difficult for the, our usual data, fabrication process, then they start to sabotage, they start to fight, they start to like they'll be like, well, we slowed down because we didn't like the way that it was being done, or we didn't like the way that we were being communicated to, that kind of thing. Like literally they said that. And so in that case, like I will literally pull the entire team, including the manager, out into, usually we go outside and we sort of talk about, hey guys, what's really going on here? And we nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. Well, we feel like we're getting talked down to. And the other people are like, well, you're not listening to me. So I'm coming in and I'm hammering on you because you're not listening to me. And then, well, you're treating me like a child, and it's all this dynamic that they're allowed to kind of like get out and, and then once we work through that dynamic, then usually it just resolves itself, afterwards because we've had that communication. What I've noticed is that if you have a communication with someone, they say they hear you, they say they understand, and they still repeat a pattern
Mhm.
that is damaging to the team or to your process, then, and they're not listening, and they say they're listening, but then they do something different, you have to let that person go. Because they are not actually intending on making any changes. Like they'll say they're going to make a change. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I understand. But if they're not actually doing that, you have to get rid of them faster. And that's a lesson that I've even learned recently with the person that I had to let go earlier in the year who was doing project coordination. She would be like, "Yes, I get it. Totally no problem.
Mhm.
I got it." I am still cleaning up messes 6 months later from stuff that she did incorrectly. And so that's infuriating because it's like, I shouldn't have that kind of thing. So these people are making like messes that you don't even know about until they leave. And then and then you're just like, oh my goodness. But it's always my fault, right? Like I could have made a decision faster to let that person go. I'm always like so touchy-feely about these things. And what I've learned is that it's business and you have to, if you have the right person in place, which could take a long time to find and it could take a little bit of time to train up, like the business can really start to rock if you have the right people in place that get the job and can make it move forward. If you're constantly checking on someone or correcting behavior, that person after 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you've got to get rid of that person because they are going to drag your business down, especially in smaller companies. In larger companies, a lot of things fly that would never fly in
Yes.
a small business. But I'm talking about, I'd say companies 25 and under, every single person makes a huge difference. I also agree. There's a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and he talks a lot of times about hiring. And he's like, if I have an A player who is also a jerk and is terrorizing other people on my team, I will fire them all day long. And I 100% agree with that. If somebody is intentionally a jerk to other people or has a huge ego or something like that, you've got to get them out of your company because they will create so many problems.
Yes, I agree. If they repeat this behavior and you try different things with that person and nothing works, yes, you have to change something. Maybe move that person from that role or something else,
Hmm. Yeah.
including firing. Yes,
Yeah.
because
And, I think there's a difference, obviously, between America and Europe. And in America, we're a little bit more cutthroat about things. It's a little bit more like, yeah,
here,
business and I am, trust me, I give people benefit of the doubt over benefit of the doubt over benefit of the
Mhm,
doubt over benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. I mean, to the point where I like am damaging myself, my brain, my business, everything, because I really want to preserve people's problem or, feelings. But what I have found is that all that that does is it makes other people on the team who you actually want to be there, who are doing a great
mhm,
job, mad, and it hurts your business. So like that's not great. You need to find people who are great at what they do and then they can execute.
mhm. So you said that you have a person who lead your team.
Yes.
If this person leaves and you have to bring in another person, how would you choose this person?
So the first thing that I would do is I would look at my existing team and see if anybody has the skills and capability to do his role. And I would see if it makes sense you know, to bring from within. And then that would be because I also know that like it's really offensive to certain people if you just are like, no, you're not good enough. I would really have conversations with everybody on my team. Again, our team is quite small, so it would be a conversation with like probably three or four people before I would say, okay, I've got to look outside of the company for this. And I'm talking on the production side. On the customer service and that other side, that person directly works with me. And
Mhm,
so, as well as my salesperson works directly with me. So, those roles I will train for and I will hire for because I don't have that capability on my team currently. If a salesperson or a customer service person were to leave, I would take that role back on for a period of time and then really try and find the right fit.
mhm, mhm. Do you want to add something because we are at the end of this conversation?
I think, I think that people have to realize that, a business is a living organism and there's going to be periods of time where things are like really smooth and there's going to be other times where there's a lot of turbulence. I think having a clear vision on the way you want your business to look, feel, and what you want to walk into every day.
Mhm,
For me, it was I'm okay walking into a little bit of chaos, but if every day my team is fighting with each other, that's not going to fly. And if that means replacing people and finding people who are going to bring in better energy and better vibes and a better ability to do the job, that is very important to me. And again, I have it's a more intentional approach that I've developed over time.
mhm,
And what I have found is that by letting certain people go, then they can go into what they're actually good at. Like the woman that was doing the project coordination, she liked marketing. She did not like project coordination. So
mhm.
I should have said, and I did say to her when I let her go, I was like, you're great at marketing. Do not do another operations or administrative role. You will hate it. Just do what you're good at. And I think that that's, part of, your job as a business owner. If you have people on your team, you'll know who the rock stars are because they're going to make your life better. If they continuously make your life worse, then you've got to sort of say, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. And these are what I've observed, and this is what I think would you be great at. And then let them go. And then they will find what they're good at, and they'll feel better, and you'll feel better. And everybody will be doing better. And that's basically what it has to be.
Yes, if the employee is not a good match for the company or for the role, yes, it's better for the two parts to set apart.
Yes, exactly. And and then it's also like if you do have someone great, making sure that they're incentivized to stay. Making sure, like for example, I give bonuses to my production team, which I don't have to do, but I do this because if we have a huge project and it's a lot of work for them, I give them sizable bonuses every time a project is fully paid for, because I want them to know, like, hey, you helped me with this. Thank you so much. Here's an extra. X number of dollars for your effort. And I really, really appreciate that. And so, it's like, it's really, working on retention, but it's also working on, and it's also, making sure that your
They are
communication
motivated.
is, and that they're motivated, but also
Yes.
that your communication is clear enough. And sometimes I'm not clear enough. And then cleaning up when you're not clear enough and saying, oops, I made a mistake. Let me fix this. And it's
Mhm.
not, none of this, I always say to my team, all problems can be solved with more time, more money, or more moss. And so, we're just constantly working through whatever problems we have that come up in the business, and we try to diminish the number of problems that we have. But what we can do is what we can do, and that's it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answers and what you share with us. Can you tell us more about your business? Just in a minute because we don't have time. And how can people find you?
Yeah. My company is called Green Wallscapes. We create preserved moss walls, letters, logos, and art, and we ship them all over the US, basically all over North America. And we have done over 1,000 walls. We've worked with major brands. We've done residential projects, all sorts of different things. You can find us at greenwallscapes.com or on all social media at Green Wallscapes.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you found value in this podcast, one way to support us is by subscribing. For more tools and insights to enhance your leadership skills and your employees' motivation, visit my website at improvework.ro. There you'll find a variety of online programs and courses. You can also book a free consulting sessions or a discovery call with me. I love to connect and support you on your leadership journey. See you in the next episode.